All this computer hacking is making me thirsty.
All I wanna do is drink beer for breakfast.
Suds and Security.
All I wanna eat is them barbecue chips. All I want is someone just to try to protect us.
Can I do my thing?
Do your thing, Mr.
right.
John.
Live from beautiful downtown Fort Myers, it's Suds and Security with your hosts,
and Security.
Greg Skasny and John Bankert. Hey, Greg.
Hey, John. How you doing today, my friend?
I love that.
I do, too.
I'm getting better at it, too.
And
I'm trying to make my voice deeper.
honestly, this is just fun.
I'm just having a good time.
This is fun.
Yeah, it's a good
I really
time.
enjoy doing
well,
this. So,
you know what? I'm drinking Dos Equis, so
yeah,
this is a repeat beer from a few podcasts ago, but I have to be honest with you. I like it, and also that was the only six-pack we had in there left.
Yeah,
so.
I have the 420.
Yeah, which I think is actually from the one 6 months ago. I don't think you finished it.
This is a extra pale ale, and I like it. It's not as hoppy as a normal pale ale, which is good.
Yeah,
and
no.
I like a little bit of hops, but I don't like them too hoppy.
I have hops.
Yeah, you got a lot of things.
I
You
could-
got crabs too.
Well,
this is not the.
Yeah.
It's not the.
Well, that's the different podcast.
Exactly.
Right.
It's not
Crabs
the
and
subject
Security.
of this podcast today.
Right.
So today,
What are we talking about?
Are going to talk about passwords. The ever-present.
My favorite subject.
Yes. And I'm just going to say it right now. See this board behind me? If you're using any of these passwords, shame on you.
Is this the good side?
No, this is all sucky.
That's a bad side?
They all suck.
So football's no good?
Football is a horrible
right.
password, and we're going to get.
Hang on.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it on your luggage, right? Yeah, kind of stuff.
Well, I didn't know football was a bad password. All right, I got to come up with a new one. Maybe after we're done here, I'll come up with a new one.
So
You
why
sure
we're talking?
football's bad?
Yes, football is bad, and actually anything less than 6 characters. I'll get down to that in a second. So we're going to talk about
football
passwords.
Has 8 characters.
8 characters. That's fine too. So even less than 8 characters is not good. So we're going to talk about why that is. So
All right.
we're going to try to give you a little context because I'm sure everybody hears this all the time. You got to have long passwords. You got to have complex passwords. You got to use a different pass for every site. You need all this stuff. Why? Right. So I'm going to give a little context into the why of that.
I thought you were asking me.
I
was nervous because I didn't know the answer.
That's fine. I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you the why real quick.
I'm the data recovery guy. Remember?
So, what you guys need to realize is that passwords are stored with what's called a one-way encryptic hash. Okay, and what that means is that it's run when you type your password in. It's ran through a mathematical algorithm that makes an encrypted piece of text that is one way. That means that it can only go one way. You can't take that encrypted piece of text and reverse it back to what the password was. Okay? But what you can do is you can run that password through that same cryptographic hash, and then that cryptographic message should be the same for the password. It will be the same every time, right? That's how they match.
That's how we hack Windows, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's how
Windows
it's done.
Passwords.
So what happens is that the reason why weak passwords are a problem is that when people break into sites and they break into corporations and they grab these password hash databases, there's some weak hashes out there like MD5. There's some strong hashes out there like SHA.
Can I for a minute? Because I don't want to interrupt you with
sure.
all this, but you could also get lucky and maybe hack Sony where they have a file that says passwords.txt.
That's right. Well, easy passwords to guess, right?
Right.
Then we'll get to that in a second.
Passwords.txt. You just grab that file.
Yep, exactly.
That's all the passwords.
And that makes it
That's
easy.
true,
So if we can
by
get
the way,
in there,
that's true.
well, we find that a lot actually.
Yeah.
But tons of that kind of stuff. But this is why it's easy to crack these things. So if I can grab all these hashes, and why it's important to have a long password. That's kind of what I'm going to get to first. Is that why did people say you got to have a long password? You got to have a long password.
What's long? What's long?
So long to me is greater than 12 characters. Probably 20 characters or better.
Right. So how do I remember that? How do I remember 20 characters?
We're going to get to that. So
okay.
I'm still get to the why real quick.
All right.
Just real fast. And I can take these hashes and put them into a computer system and crack them. So realize that if you have a password that's less than 6 characters, I can crack it. I can't, but if we had the right hardware, we could. It can be cracked in less than 6 minutes.
Sure.
So that's if it's no matter what keys, no matter how complex, no matter what you have, 6 characters, 6 minutes, it's done. And that's just depending on hardware, but it can be those can all be cracked. 8 characters, usually 6-7 hours, I think, is what they can do that. A little lesser hardware, maybe a week, but any 8-character password. And that's
key, right? I mean, people talk about and I'm playing the idiot here. I'm not well, okay, but right. So people talk about use numbers, use capital letters, use special characters. So what you're saying is, if I do all that and it's under 8 characters or 8 or under, that I might as well not do all that.
That's the issue. And
Okay,
truthfully,
good.
to me,
I want to make sure I understood it.
it really comes down to
If
length.
I understand it,
Length
they do.
matters, right? So,
Right.
and that's really when it comes down to
Yeah,
password.
my wife would not agree with that, but go ahead.
It is. I'm not saying entropy doesn't matter. So entropy, randomness, and password doesn't matter as much, but it's really the length. The longer the password, every character you add on to a password makes it exponentially more hard to crack that password, right? So that's longer passwords are better. But realize that if you use a long password, even sometimes a complex password, like this one right here, Spring 2016 exclamation point, right? This will actually, most corporations will pass most corporations password complexity policy. It's greater than 6 characters,
Sure.
has a capital letter, has numbers in it, it has punctuation in it.
Yeah.
But this is easy to guess, right? So it's an easily guessable password. So just because it's a little longer, if it's easy to guess, then it makes it not as safe either, because we can then guess those passwords, right? And we're going to make all those password cracking programs make educated guesses on passwords like this, like Spring 2016.
Sure.
So let's talk about ways you can actually do that. I like to think of passwords in terms of passphrases, right? Think of a phrase. Maybe it's an obscure song lyric. Maybe something like that. Actually, I don't use any of that, to be honest with you. I use a password manager, which we'll get into in a second. But you need to make it long, like a sentence or something for your passwords, or scrap that all together and use a password manager and let it generate it for you. That's one of the key things to me, is being able to manage
So
all these passwords.
You and I talk about this, and my password manager is my notebook. I mean, you know that. I think I've said it before online. It's not a secret. I have a notebook where I write usernames and passwords in pencil.
Yeah.
And when I change them, which is every 30 days, I erase it and change it to a new password. All my passwords are passphrases. They're at least 16 characters long, and they mix everything up. And so I think I'm doing a good job. And you tell me that I shouldn't do that. I should use a password manager.
And so it comes down to me is the nature of the threat against your passwords, right? So to me, if someone were to hack my computer, which I'm not saying is difficult, because it's not difficult to hack computers, but
You're saying that because you don't want anybody to hack your computer now.
You could. I mean,
Because somebody out there is going, I
you're
can
damn
hack
right.
your computer, right?
And that's why we have ways around that kind of stuff. But it can happen. Same thing with your PC. And if someone's logging your keystrokes, which happens a lot, if your password, no matter how complex it is, they're going to see that on there.
They couldn't log my keystrokes because I save my passwords in my browser.
Yeah, they see that too. We can grab those.
Oh my gosh!
You don't want to save them in there.
So you shouldn't save your passwords in your browser?
No, I don't think you should save your password. You need to use an encrypted password manager. And here's why.
You're shooting me today. You're killing me.
I know. The password managers make it very nice. You can go in there, you can copy it, you paste the password right in there. You never type that password out, so you really can't see that stuff being typed on your keyboard. They'll also generate passwords for you, right? So you can keep them very organized. They'll change them. You can make them as complex as you want. You can make them as long as you want.
So I don't have to remember football anymore. Now it remembers it for me.
And they're totally random. And they have what we call a high level of entropy. So a high level of randomness goes into these passwords, which makes them, if you have a password that is 16 or 20 characters long that is very high entropy, it is impossible to break that hash, right? We just don't have the computing power to do it. But that comes down to the thing of, again, you have to manage that stuff. So one of the best things we tell people about passwords is don't use the same password for every site. Don't use your work password for your Facebook, and don't use that for your bank account, because once I have one, then I have them all. And
or a variation. So don't use football and
Football 1.
Football 1 and Football 12 and Football 16 or Cleveland Browns. Well, Cleveland Browns would probably be okay. Super Bowl this year. That's what I'm saying. Super Bowl this year.
Go
Get my
Steelers.
plug in for the Browns.
Anyways, so the password manager to me makes managing that much easier, right? So, but there's a way into your password manager. There's always a way around something, right? So either you're going to protect your encrypted password manager with a password.
I'm starting to hate passwords, by the way. You're making me hate them.
And well, they're here to stay. Unfortunately, I mean, so I don't like.
Is there anything better out there?
Not right now. I mean, there's certificates which are still just long passwords, right?
What about two-factor authentication?
So
I've
let's
heard a
talk
lot about that
two-factor.
lately.
I'm a huge fan of two-factor authentication for a lot of things. It's not infallible, right? So we can still social engineer people to give us the second factor, especially like salespeople and things like that.
Well, what is it? Explain
so
what it
I'm
is.
going to explain what it is. So what happens is, I don't have my phone on me, or I'd show you. When you go to log into a site, I have an app on there, and we use it for our VPN. But what happens is when I go to log into a site or get remote access to a site or access to something, I put in my password. It says I'm going to either send you a second factor. I'm going to text you a number that you need to put in.
So kind of what Google does when I log into my Google and it says I'm going to text you to this number. Okay.
Yep.
Oh,
and
awesome.
so it's another factor, something you have on you goes to your phone, or it's an app you run that has a time-based token on it.
Oh, my son does that with his games.
Yep.
I think his games do that.
Exactly. You get a number that changes every so often.
Yeah.
And it's synced with the servers you're going in. So it's a second factor of something you have to have on you to be able to log into a site. This is key, especially for remote access for companies. And we see this all the time. People who have Outlook web access or access to their remote email flat out on the internet, or they have remote access to remote desktop sitting flat out on the internet. If I can steal someone's credentials, I'm automatically logging into that, right? I'm in. I don't have to do anything else. I can log in as them as a pen tester. I can emulate them. I can build trust within other employees and start pivoting our way through the organization. But if you have two-factor enabled, that raises the difficulty significantly, right? So now all of a sudden, I got your password. Now I have to trick you into giving me your second factor.
Yeah, sure.
Which is not always the easiest thing, right?
Yeah.
Matter of fact, it's very, very difficult. So I love two-factor. You're going to see a lot of places who, for banks and hospitals and things like that, they're going to recommend you're going to have to do that for remote access. I think it's good practice.
I know we don't. I know none of this is rehearsed, so I may throw you a curveball here. How is that different than explain the chip and pin thing that I'm seeing now on all my credit cards? Explain that to me.
So I will. And I actually got a call from NBC News yesterday when I was giving my presentation.
Shameless plug for Greg.
Not
and
for me. I gave them
he was
a
on
plug.
NBC News
I was not.
here.
I was
right?
not. They asked me for opinion on
Unbelievable.
the same exact thing.
Unbelievable.
But so chip and pin versus the swipe, right? So the swipe, as you know, very simple. It's just a magnetic barcode, a magnetic read of what's on your card. It's the numbers. If you swipe it through a USB card reader, it's going to show you the numbers, the CVV2, the number on the back, the expiration date, all that fun stuff you need to make a transaction, right? With the chip cards, it's a little bit different. So when you stick the chip card in there, it makes a one-time use authorization token, basically. That use is only good for that transaction, and once it's done, the things that are generated with that chip and pin are no longer good. So it's much more difficult to hack that, but they're predictable in some ways. So I think that's what the hack that came out with the guy who said he defeated chip and pin was he was able to predict what those next ones were going to be.
Okay.
From what I remember. So we don't use chip and pin here yet. It's chip and signature, which is a little less secure. Obviously, having a pin number is verifiable, right? So if I have a pin number,
that's the difference, right? That's the key. The key is that it's verifiable.
it's almost like that second
impossible
factor.
to verify your signature, right?
It's exactly it. So
right. So like when I go to the store and I put my chip in there, the reader, and it takes an hour now, and right, and then I put a smiley face, and it says okay, it passes.
It doesn't matter.
So that's not secure, folks.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's not
right.
verifying it. And the issue they're going to have with all that is it's great. So they're putting a lot of the banks, which we said this was going to happen. The banks are going to put a lot of pressure on retailers because the banks lose out when these frauds happen.
Sure, yeah, because you get your money back, but the
you're
banks
not responsible.
Don't, right,
the banks
yeah.
don't, right? So
right.
and they're not going to let that happen.
That's changing, though, right? The laws are changing.
Well, they're trying.
They're
trying.
going to change them. It's going to happen, people, and you're not going to get your money back if you don't follow the proper steps.
Right.
But yeah,
but
another podcast for another time.
Right, but the issue that they're going to face, in my opinion, is online. So how do you do a chip transaction online?
Sure.
You really can't. So those numbers are still going to be out there. The breaches with credit card numbers are still going to happen. Online's huge. It's not like people aren't going to buy things online anymore, right? It's still
Yeah.
booming. I mean, I buy most things I ever buy except for groceries online.
Right.
So you still have to have the way to. Now there are obviously escrow services like PayPal and things like that help with some of that. But still, I mean, you as a consumer aren't responsible if it's breached like that. But it's still going to happen. That stuff is still out there. So it's just that kind of stuff. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. It's expensive for retailers. I mean, they have to redo their whole POS terminals and things like that to get the chips working. So,
all right. So what's the final words that we want to talk about here? I mean, we can talk about Dos Equis, we can talk about 420, but let's talk about passwords for another second.
To the password. So the thing to me is, I know it's a pain in the butt. I know people complain about it. I know. And we talked about this in
wasn't it Patootie or something?
Patoot
that you used earlier?
Patoot we used earlier.
Yeah, that was another podcast.
But we talked about this earlier too, and it's true is that hackers, like we know as when we do pen testing, is that we know executives don't like to follow the rules when it comes to passwords, right? They don't want to, and we know that. So you need to, from an organizational standpoint, make sure that you're deploying your password policy across the whole organization. Everybody needs to use strong passwords. They need to be rotated. They need to be complex. They need to be.
You
long.
need to have a policy, right?
You need well, that's a topic for another conversation. But yeah, you need to have a policy. But everybody needs to follow that. It's those one or two people who don't.
So we're back. It seems like every podcast, and we've done 4 now. It seems like every podcast we always come back to it ends really up being education. Right?
It is
educating your employees, educating yourself, and understanding the difference between passwords, 2-factor authentication, all that stuff. What makes a good password? Everybody needs to understand that. And then once you educate the folks, if they choose not to follow it, you have the policy, all that stuff, then it's on them, right?
Well, then, it's
right.
on you, and
right.
But I think it's important that people understand the why behind it too.
Sure,
I think
100%. I agree.
That's part of what we want to do here
Yep.
is help people, hopefully from not to a technical level. This stuff is technical at times, but try to understand why you need to do this stuff and why it's important. To be told 100 times, don't click on a phishing email and change your password and use a complex password
without knowing what a phishing email is or what a complex password is, right?
What can happen?
Right.
What happens, like we talked about before, what can really happen if I click on that link?
Right.
How bad can it be? And we give presentations on that kind of stuff. Why do I really need to
I
have
know you spoke yesterday, right?
on instant
Downtown Fort
response,
Myers
yep,
at the
we
Rocket
did-
Lounge,
yep, a
which
little
was
bit of-
I was awesome.
That was a good
I got
time.
to see 5 minutes of it, and then I had to
it
go.
was a good time. We talked about what happens after you're hacked, which maybe we'll do a podcast about that
Sure,
too.
yeah.
I'm not an instant response super expert because some of these guys who do it on a
Maybe
really
I
deep
should talk
level.
about it then.
Well, I've done enough of it, but I mean, when you start talking
want me to talk about it
deep
next
memory
time?
forensics, that's
All right.
some cool stuff. Malware instant response. I mean, there's some guys out there to do some awesome stuff. I mean, but just being prepared, so understanding why. Why do we prepare? Why do we have a policy? Why do we do these things? And what to expect, so you can practice and so you understand that so you're not flying by the seat of your pants when
Right.
something bad happens. Because as much as we want to say that we can protect your network and we can protect and we can stop attacks, it's baloney, right? You're not going to stop all the attacks. It's just not feasible, and we all know that. So you have to be able to detect and respond,
Right.
and that's what's important. So that's a topic for another good podcast, I think. But hopefully we got the word out about passwords.
All right, so let me recap.
Yeah, let you recap.
Football's not a good password. None of these are good passwords. Good passwords, 12 characters or more.
Or more.
Typically 20 characters is what you consider good. Use a passphrase. Use a password manager, although I'm still going to continue to use my book.
Why don't you try out like KeePass or something like that?
I don't know. I'm old. It's hard for me to change.
Listen.
We certainly appreciate you tuning in and watching. We're going to try and do much better next time if we didn't do good for you this time. Dos Equis is good. It's the second time I've had it now. It's very, very good beer. 420.
I like Sweetwater's good brewery. I like it.
By the way, a little plug, Cyber Security Defense Solution is our sponsor today, so we appreciate that, Greg. Thank you very
you know
much.
what it is,
He
so.
bought the beer, so it just works out. Cool.
Awesome.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in. I'm John.
And I'm Greg. Till next time.
Suds Security.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.